Hello, my friends. Welcome back to my Inktober Galaxy Girls list. Today is Virgo, and it is the 14th piece I have done in this series. Right here, I am just showing you in real time some of the lining techniques I use. I ran out of all my microns, so I am using a Le Pen liner, and it's not too bad. It feels pretty similar to a micron, but I don't know, there's just something extra good about microns. If you're new here, hello. I have been posting daily for Inktober, so every single one I've done so far is up on my channel, and I also have a supply video in the very beginning. Now, the last piece I posted, I said I struggled a little with, but not nearly as much as this one. This one, I had an idea in my head that it was a woman picking stars out of the sky and placing them in her basket, sort of like picking fruit or picking flowers. And I had done a little mock-up on my iPad before actually laying it out, so I knew what I wanted, but when I started actually doing it, the composition wasn't reading like I wanted it to, like I had planned out on the iPad. So I almost scrapped it. Kind of like the dragon one I didn't almost scrap, but this one I was like, you know what? I could just do another one. But I stuck with that philosophy I was talking about yesterday and said, no, I'm gonna push through it. I'm gonna see what I get. And I'm glad I did because I like how it turned out. With a little more digital editing, I think it will be ready for the book at the end of the month. Since this girl does have darker skin, I'm laying in a initial wash. I don't go straight for the darkest darks yet because I want to make sure it doesn't get too dark. With this permanent ink, I can't take away the darkness. I'd have to lay over some white, and that doesn't look nearly as good as getting it right the first time. So what I'm doing is doing a bit of an, I want to say a gradient effect because she's reaching towards a star, so I want her hand and a little bit of her face to be lit up where the star will be, and then fade into a darker tone farther away from the star. Her hair and her dress are white, so there's a lot of contrast there, and the majority of the sky behind her is black with the stars and the constellation showing through. Where I started to go wrong here is when I started to add color. I wanted to go with Virgo colors, which are somewhat neutral yellows and greens, and it looked okay at first, but when I started to add in the ink wash and the night sky, it just turned super muddy and became distracting. Like I was looking at the color more than I was looking at the composition. One thing I am happy about is how I handled the hands. Maybe all this hand practice is actually paying off. To be honest, a lot of this practice is really paying off. Doing these quickly is forcing me to be less precious with my pieces, which sure runs me into a little bit of trouble here and there, but overall, I'm being more free with my work, which is allowing me to go for some ideas and positions that I wouldn't have felt comfortable doing before. So it's nice to do a lot of full bodies instead of just portraits and things I know I can do. I like going out of my comfort zone. So here you can probably see in the background it's getting muddy. It's not reading well and something's going to have to change. Yeah, sorry about this part. My tripod slipped and I didn't notice. I was too busy watching the 2-hour Shane Dawson finale. I gotta admit, I was one of those people who was like, ugh, I don't want to hear about Jake Paul. They're such jerks. But I've always been a huge Shane Dawson fan, and to me, he didn't disappoint. I really admire him for going out and talking to a bunch of different people and getting their side of the story. We are all human after all, and everything you see on camera or on photos like Instagram is not the whole picture of real life. So, although I don't agree with the Paul brothers, it was interesting to see a more human side behind them. But I digress. Sorry if you're not into internet culture. Okay, so here I tried to fix the color by putting more color. I thought, okay, maybe I can get rid of the muddiness by piling more mud on, and it's somewhat worked, but not too much. Her basket also wasn't really reading as stars to me, so I added some color in there, and that I don't mind. I also tried to add some color to her skin and kind of show her leg showing through. Tried to put more shadow because I wasn't getting a light source, and all of these things I ended up covering up as best as I could. Here it gets more muddy. Try to make the color peek through a little bit. Nice thing about working with ink and black ink and white ink is you can cover stuff up with it. But this part I had a lot of fun with, which was kind of sculpting out her curly hair in the white with some black ink and filling in more details with the white ink. I really enjoyed that. I love drawing and painting curly hair. There's just so much design in each curl. I added a lot of stars to this one, like she's in a garden of stars picking her favorite one. Now that I'm seeing it back, I also wish I had left this non-outline part where her shirt and her dress meld into her hair, but I did put some line art there. And here I am covering up everything because I'm frustrated. Which to me works better color-wise, but it still wasn't exactly what I wanted. It wasn't an interesting composition, so I'm still working on it. I'm still building it up. Here I am trying to add in the lines to see if that helps a bit. Adding more definition to the curls. And here I go in with white ink and try to make those like some nebulous clouds in the foreground to frame her. And although it's not exactly what I wanted in the beginning, it's not too bad, and I think it gives it more depth. Certainly better than the ugly, muddy, greenish yellow that I had going on before. And maybe some of you liked the color, but I made this decision and there's no going back to color after this. Now that I've added in more definition all over the piece, I add in some of that metallic chrome into the stars, do some jewelry, add a glow around the stars in her basket. And when you see it in person, that really helped a lot. And it was right here that I started finding the piece successful. Also adding in the constellation, so it's like she's picking out the star in the constellation. And there she is! She was a tough one. I'd love to know what you think. If you think the changes I made were good, or if you think I should have gone a different way, love to hear it. Keep in mind I am doing these in one day, so they can't all be perfect. If you'd like to follow along in this series, please subscribe and follow my social media linked below. Thank you for all your feedback so far, and I will see you tomorrow for number 15, Centaurus, the Centaur constellation. Have a lovely day.